To deliver the opening address today on true digital transformation and India's edge in the new normal, we bring you Gautam Sinha, CEO, Times Internet.
Welcome to ET Global Townhall, a global business leadership forum curated by Economics Times Business Vertical. In this special fireside chat focused on digital and India edge in new normal, I'm joined by very experienced and dynamic technology leader, Mr. Gautam Sinha, who has very diverse set of experience of being hardcore technologist, chief operating officer, and CEO. Mr. Sinha began his career way back in '86 as a scientist with Defense Research and Development Organization, DRDO, and currently he is CEO of Times Internet. Mr. Sinha, welcome to ET Global Town Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Ujale.
I'll begin with your views. What do you understand from when we say, India Edge? What is this India Edge, which is the digital economy or digital technology, sir?
Let's try to address, does India has an edge in the new normal, or with respect to digital? The answer is an emphatic yes. And to give a very simple explanation to it, the advantage that India has are three. First, we are a populous nation. The demographic dividend that we have is significantly biased towards the younger generation. And third, over the last 3-4 years, what we have seen is the cost of internet access is the lowest in the world.
Right.
And while it might have come up a little bit, I think will still be one of the cheapest cost of data anywhere globally. I think these three make tremendous recipe for an edge in the next 10 years for us.
But sir, how do we leverage this edge? How do we leverage this technology edge to push the health agenda, education agenda, economy agenda of the country?
Let's tie it together with the new normal.
Right.
What is the new normal? The new normal in very simple terms, if you try to understand it, we have all started using the word WFH. And there is another word for students which they call LFH, which is learn from home. 5 months ago, we never thought that this was possible.
Absolutely.
At this level of scale. What the new normal has taught us is that this is not only possible, but it should be the way forward going into the next 5 years. It's not just a replacement, but it's probably better than what we used to have before. I think it's better to expand this a little bit. So on a typical work day, we used to spend 1 hour to 2 hours commuting. Imagine that now converting into work from home where you have that extra hour available to yourself. That is just one of the advantages. Now, if you are working from home, where your home is irrelevant. Your office might be in Gurgaon, but you can work from the remotest of village as long as you have internet connectivity, and you should be able to participate and be as productive. Now understand the social and the economic implications of this work from home. If I don't have to be in office, I can always be in office wherever I am. So if the companies are allowed to hire because of this from any other place, any city, certainly the flexibility to hire the best of talent and for the talent to be able to work for the best of companies from wherever they are. This highly democratizes the talent pool and the job pool, because now you don't have to work in the city where you are. You can work anywhere in the world because that is proved to be possible. Obviously, the transition is not going to be simple, but it's a worthy transition. As this transition is also going to happen, there are other phenomena which will start to catch on. One is the notion of gig economy, and that is bound to happen because now you don't have to tie yourself to one employer. If you are a knowledge worker, you have the ability to work for anywhere, anyone in the world, where you are passionate, the work you are passionate about. So it gives empowerment to both the office as well as to the employee in terms of where they can work and what they can work on. Now, if you are able to spread the distance from your office, let's say, if you, instead of commuting 5 days a week, now you're commuting once a month, you can now potentially live 3 hours away from your office and just come once a month to do things which you can't do remotely.
Right.
So the ability and impact on commute, on traffic, and even housing is going to be significant, because you don't have to live just next to your school or just next to your office to be able to minimize that. And that's a significant long-term change that's likely to happen. It also empowers and enables diversity to a huge extent. And if we are able to get the diversity into our workforce, I think that's a significant advantage that will come to any business and to the country at large. Let me shift gear. I think work from home is one of the benefits, but I do want to talk a little more on learn from home, because I think the fundamental of learning has been highly democratized with the digital revolution. So when I was growing up, or when I was doing my engineering back in 80s, I had very limited set of professors I could interact to, or very limited set of courses I can do. My learning was limited to the neighborhood that I was living or to the college I was attending. Today, you can attend any course with the best of professors in the world sitting anywhere. Content is no longer not available to you. All the content, the best of content from the Ivy Leagues, from the best professors in India, they are available to everyone sitting in the remotest college. Now you further segment it into elementary school and the ability to do higher end research, because I want to take these two segments differently. India spends close to about 100,000 crores in education as part of their GDP.
Right.
Now, imagine if the cost of education, because of digital and because the content is available everywhere and everyone has access to it, if you can move the content to the remotest village, your cost of education will come down by a factor of 100.
Right.
Because now you don't need the teachers to teach that class. So the best of teachers can teach that class, which can scale to, hundreds of thousands of students at the same time. Today, where is the money or the budget on education getting spent? Let's say it's getting spent in the primary side, which is about teachers. Now the role of the teachers will have to change, is that they became mentors and the people, and I think I'll quote Dr. Kalam, people who can ignite the mind of younger students, because the lessons are already available. But the passion to learn, if the teachers in the remote part of the villages, they give, and the access to learn, the basic access of a computer and internet is given, I think the people who want to move ahead in their life, they can pick knowledge at a fraction of the cost than was earlier possible.
Absolutely.
And making that all ubiquitous through policies and private public partnerships, I think is very, very visible and possible at this time, because the content is available and the content can scale to infinite number of students anywhere in the world. Now, if you go to, let's say, the elementary school, my theory is the elementary school should be close to your home. So you get the social interaction. You should still go to school for the social part of it, but your learning can be supplemented with the digital world. You don't have to learn your basic maths or basic alphabets sitting just by the local teachers. The local teachers should be giving you the boost that learning is important. And the moment we realize that it's important to learn, not just learn. If we learn to learn to unlearn,
Yes.
and learn to relearn, we will be a very, very prosperous country. If we get that inculcated at the grassroots level, I think we'll be a very, very prosperous country.
Right. So, sir, as you mentioned about the education, last week, Government of India announced National Education Policy Framework. Some of the things that you have mentioned just now, few things are there, and there is significant focus on improving quality of education, and also there is a decent focus on the e-literacy part to ensure that ICT in education is there. So government is going to focus on. Did you have a chance to go through the policy? What is your view? Is it in the right direction?
I did spend time to understand the national education policy. I'd looked at both the 2019 paper and as well as the 2020 paper released last week.
Right.
And I am very happy with the steps that are being taken. Will everything get solved? Probably not, but I think it's a significant leap from where we were just a year ago, in terms of policies that can benefit India. Education is the backbone of every country. I think that the policy is recognizing this and making sure that people come to school to learn is one of the biggest asset of this policy, not just pass the exams. If you notice in this policy, the frequency of exams has reduced in the earlier part of the education. And it has been further subdivided into a different, not the 10 plus 2 plus 3, but into a very basic education up to higher level education, which will better align to the way jobs are structured. If you see the jobs and the education, and if we talk to the people around yourself, people will say, what we have studied, we have really never used it. And that's the biggest problem of the policy that is today. If you are not able to use what you have studied, that's a significant gap. When I was growing up, education was meant to pass the exams or top the exams, and there was a very narrow focus, and ultimately to get a job, which was the primary objective of education, that at least the person will get a job. I think things have to change. Today, a successful person, and I would like to make a quote here by Alvin Toffler, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. I think this is a very significant statement as to how the knowledge economy is going to shape up. Everything that we have learned, if we don't learn to learn, we will get outdated very, very fast. So understanding why we are learning something is of primary importance.
Right.
And this education policy actually tackles that.
Right.
Second, if you look at the spend of GDP towards education from a country like ours, it's about 100,000 crores that the country spends in its education budget. If you can stretch that money because of digital to an efficiency of 100x, imagine the acceleration that can happen, the backbone of the country. And the backbone of the country is people. Absolutely. Now, if the education and literacy and the ability and learning to learn changes, in 10 years' time, or maybe within a generation, we will be in a very different orbit in terms of the country. Because, with such a strong backbone and people willing to learn, I think we'll be one of the best global citizens who can take a job anywhere in the world.
Right. So you mentioned about the importance of, education, e-learning. But for the e-learning to survive or e-learning to flourish, the fundamental is connectivity. You need connectivity, you need devices, you need platform and content. What is your view of the connectivity, given the fact that you have a different sort of experience from Delhi to Bombay to northeastern state in terms of connectivity? Large part of India is still, they don't have a high speed connection. And if I'm going to teach via video conferencing, a top professor, people need to have a connectivity at the Gram Panchayat level. How actually we can do that? Possibly we can create a quality content, we can create a great platform, but that platform to reach to a Gram Panchayat, we will need a good connectivity. As a technologist, do you have any thought around how we can improve connectivity?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's work in progress. If you compare the connectivity from 10 years ago and compare where you are today, you know, you will see the places that had no connectivity are reducing and vanishing. My guess is that 5G will be a reality in multiple cities in the next couple of years. And that becomes a significant advantage for India. So if I just back up, India didn't have wired telephone, a very good wired telephone network. But the moment mobile came, we actually leapfrogged a couple of generations, because the adoption of mobile in the country was second to none, in spite of the low per capita income, from there. Now, if the cost of data continues to be low and the lowest in the world, I'm pretty sure that investment in infrastructure that is happening, especially on the wireless side, will reach the remotest possible corners and schools in the country. It might take, another 5 or 10 years, but I can actually feel that there is definite progress every year. If you say, will everything happen tomorrow? Probably not. But I think as a country which has to mobilize resources, I think what we have seen in the last 5-10 years, we have not seen in the last 50 years, from there, in terms of connectivity to the last mile.
I'll go back to digital companies. Mr. Sinha, if you look at this pandemic, most of the digital companies, the big technology companies, they seems to be performing quite well. They enable work from home on the go. Their stock are slightly doing well. Their quarters numbers are in place. What do you think? Is it because they are agile as a company, scalable, or is it to their business model? Because most of the traditional company, hardcore companies into energy sector, into other infrastructure sector, they seems to be struggling.
Yes, COVID has actually been a little bit of tailwind for the digital companies because of a couple of reasons. In India, you call it lockdown, we call it lockdown. In US, you call it sheltered in place. But what it basically means that you stay where you are, and don't take any risk. Now, when you stay where you are or you stay at home, what do? You consume digital. You can't go to restaurants. You can't go out and see a movie. There are no live sports happening everywhere, anywhere. So what do you end up consuming? You will end up consuming any content in digital, both on the news side, entertainment side, as well as on the knowledge side, which is education, whether vocational or degrees. And that's or any kind of e-learning is superbly telecharged because of this. By large, the digital companies will see an increased engagement. While the revenues for some will come back immediately, which has a direct to consumer business, the others in the long run will also benefit. Maybe in the short run, because of the advertisement setback, they will have couple of quarters of slow quarters. But in the long run, because of the higher engagement, that will all convert into revenues and better business for the digital companies. And that's the phenomena you are seeing globally. So is Netflix, Zoom, Google, Facebook, anyone, are they seeing increased usage? Including our company, Times Internet, businesses are growing by 50-60% in terms of engagement. Definitely there is a tailwind towards the digital entities and companies which are knowledge economy, where you can work from home and all you are using is your brain. It's easier to transition into work from home than companies where you have to go and do the physical work like in manufacturing or factories. That's a tougher transition, especially in the times of COVID, or any kind of lockdown.
You have personally seen some of these startup companies growing in India, and you do have an interest there also. So I wanted to understand from you that, despite our best intention and efforts, India has not been able to produce a kind of, a global giant, something like, Huawei or maybe Google, Facebook. We haven't been able to produce such platform. Although seems to be some sort of interest in a couple of companies, there is huge investment happening. So I wanted to understand from you, can investment, for example, alone do that, or do we need a cultural shift towards innovation, research and development, and entrepreneurship?
I actually think that the shift is happening.
Right.
Nowhere in the world has that been instant. It happens gradually, and the ecosystem matures. In 2005 or 6, you won't be able to say what are the successful companies in India,
Right.
outside of the big ones that existed for 50 years or 100 years. But there were not many digital companies or startups, as we call them,
Right.
which you could name in 2005 and 6. Today, in 2020, you can at least name 15 or 20 companies which have made their mark in the Indian ecosystem. Now, ecosystem builds over time, and it needs multiple constituents. It obviously needs the entrepreneurs. It needs a lot of capital. It needs a lot of exits, because success broods a lot more entrepreneurs into the ecosystem.
Right.
And then the money that comes from success also comes back to the new entrepreneurs who are trying out different things. So it's a gradual process of the ecosystem buildup.
Right.
When I look at the youth in the country, I see them to be very ambitious and very balanced, very mature. With some mentoring, they have the audacity to win the world.
Right.
So I am very hopeful and very patient that in the next 10 years, you will see a lot more product companies in the country across all the domains.
Right.
That is going to come up because now people have tasted success. In my time, we were discouraged to be entrepreneurs. And to some extent, that's true even now. But there is a significant population where people want to take the risk, and that support is gradually building. Now, as the ecosystem matures, I think we'll see a lot more products coming out of India than we have seen in the past.
You mentioned about the young people. The young people platform, popular platform like TikTok and all. Not only the TikTok, but other platform also, wherein a startup or a young company focusing on a young people create a world-class product. And then they go global actually. And then they face a lot of regulatory challenge. It could be something around data sovereignty. It could be something around protectionism that we are seeing. So as a technologist, how do you navigate? How do you balance this thin line between your quality, your innovation, providing equal opportunity to your team, and also trying to navigate the regionalism that we are seeing across the board?
See, the world is getting a little more tribal and centered around self-interest in the recent past. And we'll see some of them, but I don't see that as a very long-term phenomena.
Right.
I still see a global world. While there has been certain bans for whatever reasons, I don't see that to hold in the long run, because that's simply now how humans are supposed to behave, in the global sense. In the short term, we will see some protectionism to boost certain economies within any country, including ours.
Right.
But I think broadly, any innovation which is creating value can't be stopped. And if someone is closer to fundamental value, I think people will lap it up. So let's say, if your innovation is you have created a patent in pharmacy, and some medicines.
Right.
The world will lap it up today. There's no protectionism anywhere. In fact, your country will try to stop that export. But the global population will want to accept it and adopt it. Now, certain industries will be more protected than other industries.
Right.
Banking, I think the country will like to protect little more with their regulations than opening it up to the entire world. And there will be these gradations in the industries between countries. But in general, I'm not too concerned or worried about that, because if you are creating a good product, creating value, I think that will get accepted by the larger world by open hands and hearts.
This is going to be my last question to you. You
Sure.
had the pleasure to work with Dr. Kalam way back in '86 when you were with Defense Research and Development Organization. Can you share some inspiring anecdotes for digital native? Is there something that we can pick from his life to mitigate the challenge of COVID-19, either as a business or individuals?
See, it was my sheer good luck that I had the opportunity to work for 5 years with Dr. Kalam and work reasonably closely in that we could ask him questions, because when I joined, I was probably 22 years old. And to have the opportunity to ask or clarify doubt with a person of that caliber who can answer in very simple terms. So one of the difference that I have seen and that makes a difference, one of the characters which made Dr. Kalam unique is while he could solve very complex things, he could explain it in very simple terms. He always was willing to ignite a younger person's mind.
Right.
And that ability to say what you can do next and to have that as a mentor, is priceless. For someone to just ignite your mind when you're just starting your career, I couldn't have asked for a better initiation for me. And as his philosophy, he used to invest in the younger population. So
Right.
whatever time he used to get, he used to sit with the younger engineers and scientists and discuss the problems, because he said, this generation, and this is going back to '86, he would say this generation has to lead the change. And I think that continues to happen even for me. When I'm now his age, when I was 22, I think I believe in the same, that invest in the youth of the company, invest in the youth of the country, and they will make the change that's required to be made to propel the country forward.
Mr. Gautam Sinha, thank you for joining to Global Town Hall. We really appreciate your time, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and appreciate the invitation.